everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how a Chinese chip maker has said that phone and PC demand has dropped like a rock. Alright, welcome back. So this is really interesting. So a Chinese chip maker, SMIC, says phone PC demand has dropped like a rock here. Now, this is really interesting, and there's a lot of ramifications because of this article here. Now, as we probably know, there was a chip shortage here. Now, chips are used in, well, practically everything. And, they're used in computers, phones, those are the biggest ones. But, they're used in cars as well. They're used in TVs, and they're used in a whole bunch of other things nowadays. So, because of, the pandemic and supply chain problems, there has been a shortage of chips. And when there's a supply imbalance, that means the price has to go up if the demand stays the same. But what this is saying is that the demand has dropped. And this is really interesting. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So one of the major things about tech in the last 10 years is that you always have to constantly be producing more product here, okay? So, a new iPhone version comes out every single year. A new MacBook Pro comes out every single year. Apple's probably the best example of this. But even Tesla, they produce a new car every year. They just don't really talk about it here. They kind of just roll over the updates here. So like if you have a Model 3 from 4 years ago and a Model 3 today, there is a newer version of it. And if you were to look, you would see differences. But there's no like Model 3A, Model 3B, etc. It's not like the iPhone where it's essentially the iPhone 12, 13, 14, etc. here. So Apple's probably the best example of this here. But the thing is that they're blaming the Russia-Ukraine war and the lockdowns have massively dented demand for consumer electronics, home appliances, which has led to a serious adjustment in chip orders for those segments here. Now, these are the people that actually make the chips here. Now, it's really interesting. Now, because one of the things about consumer behavior is that once you get them to be on a habit, it's very hard for that person to break that habit, or it's very hard for them to realize it is a habit. So if they're buying a phone every year and they realize, well, maybe I don't need a phone every few years or every year, maybe I need it every few years here. And now they're saying, well, I guess I can't buy a phone, so do I really need something new? Couple this with all of like the iPhone throttling case, etc. I think consumers are realizing that their electronics are good enough here. Now, for example, I'm doing this on an old iMac, not the new ones, but the old ones. I bought it like 6 months because I just couldn't stand working on my laptop anymore, so I bought an iMac. And even though I kind of knew that they were coming out with a new iMac. So anyway, this iMac does the job perfectly. And, if I'm using web and, just basic products, really what really needs to change here. Now, of course, I do a lot of game development here, and that's where things really make a difference here. Going from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5, all of my PCs are just a little bit slower than I want them to be, so I'll probably have to update that. And that makes sense, right? I think my PC is a few years old, and then my laptop's a couple years old. So my PC laptop. So I will have to update those eventually. But you know what? For the most people who aren't even doing lots of development, and specifically that's only game development, they don't need a new phone. And I think most consumers have realized that, maybe the appliances I have are good enough. And that is very dangerous because we need people, obviously, if you want the economy to grow, you need people to buy more. So that is very interesting here. So, but this is also interesting. They said revenue growth is up 66%, but they said that the margin is going to be a bit lower. So this is interesting. So it's a very interesting article because a lot of things are changing here. Now that, like, if I take a look at the S&P today, right, and I'm on the Tor browser, so that might take a little bit of time here. But anyway, if I take a look at the S&P, you can see it's down today, right? And it's down quite a lot. And if we just wait for the chart to load here, it's down below that 4,000 mark. And I think I made a tweet about this, is that, things could really go back down to 3,000. And I think that would be a potential floor for the S&P. And the reason for that is just, well, I can basically draw a couple charts here. So let me go do that. All right, so what I've done here is I've drawn a couple things here. So as you can see, the top was, again, around maybe 4,700, and you can see that, well, you know, this is the monthly chart, by the way. So it's gone down to about 38, and today, you know, if the month closes below 4,000, it's probably headed down to this level here. Now, of course, with technical analysis, it's not always exactly accurate here, but you can see that there was some massive resistance around the $2,900 mark, and things could probably go back there and bounce off here. If it breaks this level, then it's going back down to, well, let's say 2,100. And that's like a 50% drop from this case here. So, you know, from here to here, that's a huge drop. And then from here, like already the stock market has dropped here, and it could probably go down a bit more here. So that's basically, that's what could happen here. And so if demand is falling off, then, well, I think times might get a little bit more interesting here. And the other thing you can do is, this is the monthly chart again. And what I've done here is I've gone to the Heiken Ashi chart here. And basically all this kind of chart here is it allows you to visualize kind of sentiment here. So you can see here that it's all green. And of course, this is hard to do like right now. So like right now, things are all red. And so, you know, you more or less want to be selling the market versus kind of buying the market here. But nevertheless, you can kind of see, you know, here's like the 2008's red, 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 then green. And you can see it's green, green, green. And, you know, we have the two pandemics here. And the other thing is, like, the lower the candles, the more this is proven. Like you can see here, this is a pretty big candle. So this is not really a confirmation here. So we also have, well, a decently high candle up here. This is a doji, and usually when you see a doji, it means that like there's indecision in the market, so it's either going to go up or down. In this case, down. But you can see that here, and then I can also, if I go back down, I don't think to the 2100. Yeah, so like on this chart here, you don't really see that $2,100 support, right? And this is because this chart and the way that they visualize this kind of data, it doesn't really do that here. So those are a couple things that you need to take care of. This is a different kind of candle chart here, but for the most part, you might think that it is good to start selling here, at least until this thing goes out here. And I wouldn't be surprised if things head down to, you know, the 3,000, and maybe even, it would not surprise me at all, right? So you just have to make sure that you're protecting yourself there. So going back to the article, there's one other thing that hasn't been mentioned here, is that China kind of has a zero COVID policy, which has been slowly being lifted here. I think they just released the restrictions in Shanghai, but like the lockdowns are fairly big in China here. And once those lockdowns and people start kind of doing things again, I think that everything will start to kind of fix itself. And we might be at peak inflation, and hopefully we are at peak inflation, because if we are at peak inflation, the Federal Reserve has to raise rates less, which is why we're seeing a lot of the market turmoil that we're actually seeing here, okay? So that concludes this video here. I want to know your thoughts down below. Is demand for consumer chips declining? Have you changed your philosophy? Do you realize that, hey, maybe I don't need some more electronics this month? I want to know your thoughts down below, because this channel does not get enough comments. So please comment in this for this video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.